This part of the video series will focus on that section of Chapter 1, Section 4, the fetishism of commodities and the secret thereof. But before we start, we will look at a little bit of Marxist puppetry, which shows the practical ramifications of the commodity fetishism theory.
Yo, Moneybags, what's the deal? You lowering our wages? We need more money, if anything, not less. The price of food and gas and everything is going up, man. I think we are going to do something about this problem. You need to increase our wages, man.
Yeah, Moneybags, you should increase their wages. I say all of the workers should go on strike because you're evil. Evil like Hitler.
That sounds like an excellent idea. We will go on strike against Moneybags because he is evil. Me? Evil? I am not evil, you see. I just do what the market demands of me. When prices are low, I buy. But when they are high, I sell my goods. And when labor's cheap and you are trying to demand more than the market price of labor, I'm going to fire your dumb ass. You're fired. Ha 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 ha. But I'm not evil.
Now, of course, Moneybags' mere economic actions do not make him evil or not. In fact, the entire purpose of commodity fetishism is to show that Moneybags was entirely justified in his sing-along, that he's merely doing what the market demands that he do. But we're speaking slightly ahead of ourselves yet again, and much like last time, we will begin by defining what is a fetish, and we're talking about fetish in the classical religious sense of the word. Now, a fetish is a man-made object that appears to exert control over man, and the religious example would be a pagan idol or something to that extent that's just made of wood or gold or whatever. It's an object that is created by man, but that certain people think holds power over man. And the contrast would be with commodity fetishism, where the market is a human construct, but it actually does control humanity. So, as opposed to the religious fetish, the religious object does not actually offer any control over humanity. The market is a man-made creation, but it does offer control over humanity. And along with a more common use of the word fetish, last time we talked about the gold fetish, where the first peculiarity is expressed to make people believe that the mere use value of gold, the physical properties of gold, make it something valuable. But as we saw, it's merely the fact that all other commodities express their value through the use value of gold, that gold is considered the money commodity, not because it's valuable in and of itself. Now, we're going to discuss commodity fetishism first on an individual level. And the most striking part of commodity fetishism on an individual level is that, to quote Marx, there exist material relations between people and social relations between things. Now, when you think about it, if you come into exchange with somebody, that relationship is completely mediated by the commodities in which you are exchanging. So the relationship only exists and is mediated by material physical things, namely the commodities that are being exchanged. But within those commodities, of course, we have explored the fact that there is social labor embodied in those commodities. So those commodities themselves are having a social relationship in the form of the social labor that is being exchanged. And in order to make that exchange, of course, you must first alienate your labor/commodity to the market. And in doing so, you become the mere representative of that commodity, because at that point the commodity is then subject to the laws of the market and the market forces like supply and demand, for example. And This results in the fact that you're unable to control the effective price of the commodity. You can't expect to sell a pencil for $5,000, for example. And again, this is because you're merely the representative of that commodity by the time you expose it to the market. The commodity comes to live a life of its own, as Marx will say. And because you're unable to control price, the value that you put into the commodity may not necessarily be realized at its full value. And this is because, again, market forces, most notably supply and demand. Now, we noted earlier that every human society has the job of attempting to portion out human labor time. And price is the distributive function under capitalism. So price is a way in which we determine where labor value should be apportioned. If we have things that are incredibly expensive, they are in low supply and high demand, then more value and labor and such will be applied there, which will increase the supply and therefore decrease the price, bringing it more in line with the actual value. So on an individual level, like this example we have up here, value may not exchange at its exact value, of course, but on a total social level, value equals price on a total social level. On an individual level, value may not be the same thing as price, but on a total social level it is, because we can just look at our example and see that 2 value is being exchanged for 3 value, for example. Now on an individual scale, of course, these values are not exchanging at their value, obviously. But on a total social level, we're merely trading places of 2 and 3 value. The total value still exists as 5, in this specific example, of course. Now, on a social level, commodity fetishism, considered on a social level, I mean, we've already talked about the fluctuations in price on the market, and the fluctuations in price are actually the way that producers communicate with each other in capitalism. Like we said, price is distributive, and so if something is incredibly expensive, that is people saying that there needs to be more supply of this, and so producers will start producing more of that in order to take advantage of the high prices. And if things are incredibly underpriced, then producers will tend to shy away from producing that object because society is basically being told that we have enough of this. And the fact that labor is alienated is merely a symptom that society as a whole is alienated from you. The fact that you are forced to alienate your labor/commodity before you can actually exchange it, you have to alienate it to the market, which is itself an alien force to you because you are unable to control it. You merely have to obey the laws of the market that impinge upon your private production in order to actually come into exchange and obtain the things that you want. And this, I feel, summarizes commodity fetishism. Next time we will be discussing chapter 2, finally moving away from chapter 1.